The COVID-19 pandemic shook the global economy, but it had little impact on the illegal methamphetamine trade through Thailand and Southeast Asia. Traffickers and organized crime groups have changed routes, working around border restrictions, and have even added production bases to not only survive, but to capitalize during the pandemic. Despite numerous seizures of drugs by Thai officers, wholesale methamphetamine prices are at a record low. And going with the law of supply and demand, it's safe to say the supply of methamphetamine is high. With Thailand a major transit country in the region's illicit drug trade, Thai authorities say they now plan to work with their counterparts overseas to investigate cases where drugs were trafficked through Thailand. The efforts to crack down on transnational drug trafficking was prompted after a major bust last May. Australian Border Force seized more than 300 kilograms of methamphetamine from a Thai cargo ship docked in Sydney. The drugs were hidden in electric water heaters and barbecue grills. This seizure gained international media coverage, and Thailand's justice minister then publicly called on authorities to work with foreign agencies to investigate transnational drug trafficking with roots in Thailand. Since then, Thailand's Office of the Narcotics Control Board announced several busts at Bangkok's Suvarnabhumi International Airport and Chonburi's Laem Chabang port. Just last month, more than 300 kilograms of heroin hidden in paint buckets were seized at the major port in Chonburi. The heroin, said to be valued at more than 900 million baht, was en route to Australia. At the Bangkok airport, a task force has been using a handheld analyzer to scan packages to detect drugs like heroin and methamphetamine. Drugs have been found sewn into the seams of hats, concealed in the covers of notebooks, hidden in picture frames, and stuffed into hollow metal motorcycle parts. The packages were destined for various countries, including Australia, New Zealand, and Israel. Despite the recent seizures, large hauls of drugs are still being shipped out of Thailand. Just last month, Hong Kong customs officials seized 61 kilograms of heroin, which is valued at around 65 million US dollars. The drugs were hidden in instant noodle seasoning packets, and the shipment was from Bangkok. Despite all the formal photo opportunities and back-patting, it's hard to say how much impact these recent seizures have actually had on the drug trade. According to a recent report by the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, last year's drug seizures did little to impact the supply of methamphetamine, and the wholesale drug prices dropped to a record low. While law enforcement officers in Thailand are on the lookout for heroin and methamphetamine trafficked into and out of the country, frontline officers don't seem to have an eye out for a major key in the drug trade: the chemicals trafficked to Myanmar to manufacture the synthetic drugs. Most of the drugs trafficked through Thailand are said to originate from Myanmar's region of the notorious Golden Triangle, where Myanmar, Thailand, and Laos meet. Myanmar's Shan state, occupied by ethnic armies, is known for the highly lucrative methamphetamine and heroin production bases deep in the region's rainforests. Thailand is a major transit country for the methamphetamine and heroin trade, according to the country's justice minister. He says Thailand is rarely used as a production base due to the strict penalties for illegal drug production. In most cases, drugs are either shipped out from Bangkok's international airports or from the major port in Chonburi. The drugs are then sent to various countries around the world. Drugs are also trafficked through Thailand down to Malaysia. But during the pandemic, organized crime groups made some changes to their operations. Before the pandemic, drugs previously crossed the border into Thailand directly from Myanmar. With Thailand tightening patrol along the Myanmar border due to the rise in COVID-19 cases in the neighboring country, organized crime changed their operations to use Laos as a main transit route for smuggling methamphetamine into Thailand. The change in major drug trafficking routes led to a significant uptick in drug seizures in northeastern Thailand, which borders Laos, going from 266 kilograms of methamphetamine seized in 2019 to 5.7 tons seized in 2020. Large-scale methamphetamine production has also emerged in Cambodia, but the bases are nowhere near the size of the bases in Myanmar's Shan state. The decline of wholesale methamphetamine prices in several Southeast Asian countries, with the purity of the drugs remaining stable, indicates that the COVID-19 related restrictions had little impact on the supply, according to the UNODC. Laos also became a key hub for the transit of chemicals used to produce drugs in Myanmar's Shan state, with more than 125 tons of chemical substances seized in 2020, a significant uptick compared to the 13 tons seized in 2019. In July of last year, 72 tons of propionyl chloride, a precursor chemical which can be used to manufacture ephedrine, a main ingredient in methamphetamine, were seized in the remote region of Laos by the Mekong River. The chemical, trafficked from China through Thailand to Laos, was en route to Myanmar. But because the chemical is also used in the production for chemicals for agriculture and pharmaceuticals, the large shipments of the chemical containers don't tend to draw too much attention. Thai authorities tend to focus on arresting small-scale drug dealers and busting drug seizures at the airport. So impacting the supply of the drugs, which is said to drive the methamphetamine trade in Southeast Asia, can be a challenge, as many frontline officers in Thailand are not aware of the wide range of chemicals used in the illicit drug production. For the latest news on Thailand and Southeast Asia, go to thetiger.com.
It's time to join the conversation. Thaiger Talk is our forum where you can share your thoughts and comments about all the news stories, as well as just about anything happening in Thailand. Just scroll down under any Thaiger story, click on Thaiger Talk, register, and you're in. It's time to join Thailand's fastest growing forum. So jump in and be part of the Thaiger Talk conversation.
Tim was sad. He had time on his hands but didn't know where to find the news. But then he remembered. The Thaiger app. All your Thai news and Thaiger videos in one place. Just a single click takes you to a one-stop connection to all the news and information in Thailand. Now Tim is happy. Available free on Apple and Android, hologram not included.